Sentence number 13, which reads, second, explaining the meaning of the having transformed has two parts. The purpose of mentioning having transformed, clarifications related to having accomplished the purpose. First, the purpose of mentioning having transformed. So they, in the two lines of the supplication, are the one who has transformed into the reliable guide, the one who has transformed. Why the word transformed is added there? Why? It is to indicate, okay, I'm giving the gist of what we're going to study here. The one who has transformed into what are the two lines of the supplication? Okay, so there it says the one who has transformed into the reliable guide. Reliable guide. Okay, now if you could remember this morning I said that we have to start from the clean slate. Why I'm saying this is just imagine that you are day one you're born without any philosophy, without any religion, very clean slate, without any baggage from anywhere. Just start very clean slate. This is very important. And then you will see that otherwise, as I warned this morning, that even my a book which I may write, right, which would have so many mistakes, contradictions there, it can be uplifted to the level of the divine words by the people, right? And then nobody can ask question to this. And the majority of the people will in the first place just not ask questions. Oh, this is so good. The moment they see that book is kept in a high place. And then some people, they start questioning, but they don't dare, because the majority will put you in the category of being blasphemous. Okay. So the point is that it's not about what we're discussing now. This is a very important concept. So that even in the future lifetimes, that should you be born in a family where all these blind faiths are happening, that you not be deviated by that, the pattern of thinking, that you be able to meet with the correct path to reach to the level of the fearlessness and the infinite happiness, which will actually take you there. So for that matter, your thinking must be developed to that extent, be able to really inquire whether what I'm following is correct or not, or if there's another path which takes me to the desired goal. What is the desired goal? Infinite happiness. Okay, first the fearlessness and the infinite happiness. Now, who wants that? Males or the females? Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, Jains, non-believers, who? Everyone. So, this being the case, this is a reality. This being the case, this is what I want. So for me, if by following Buddhism, if I go there, if I get there, I'll do it. If by not following Buddhism, if I get there, I will not follow Buddhism. This should be our thinking. It's not that, Buddhism is my birth religion, it's so precious, if I go against this. But at the same time, when you become very open-minded and see the path as it is, and then when you see somebody else following the wrong path, we should not be scornful, we should not be contemptuous of them, we should not be looking down upon them. We must respect them, we must try to embrace them with love and affection. That is very important. And if possible, of course, take them to the state of the fearlessness and guide them into that path through the proper wisdom, the proper light to the fearlessness and the infinite happiness. If you cannot, at least don't be contemptuous, don't look down upon them, don't have conflict with them, and don't be scornful of them. So this is a basic. But then for you, we have to follow the path which will take you to infinite, the fearlessness and the infinite happiness. This is very important. Even in the future lifetimes, we never know where we're going to take birth. What kind of family background, what kind of the area, the location we'll take birth, we never know. So there, to build this capacity now, to know the actual path. For that matter, the intelligence is so important. So these basic intelligence we will learn from here. So start from the clean slate. Only when we start from clean slate, then we will get somewhere. And then once we learn some, the logics and reasonings from here, then on that basis, we are not really create problem in the community. At times when we learn something, then you just apply it directly to people and it can easily offend so many people. So therefore you should be very sensitive to the situation. While we learn something for your own good, and if there are other people who are like-minded, who are also open-minded, you can share these ideas. But otherwise who are very pious in their systems, and then you just try to destroy, they shake their faith, is very dangerous. Until it is for this reason that the Buddha's teachings, it is said that only if the request is made, you are advised to give teachings. When the request is not made, don't just go and like the missionaries, proselytize, right? So going to in the form of the missionaries, right? Just spreading. This the Buddha discouraged. So the Buddha said, only if the other person shows interest to learn, only then you teach. Otherwise, don't force. This is the Buddha's advice. Because at times, with the best of your intention to help others, you will say, oh, there's no God, there's no creator, there's no objective self, there's no soul. Like this, the faith of the other person easily gets shaken up. And then the new faith is not developed, and the old faith is shaken up, and then the person gets lost. And when the faith is shaken, it's very dangerous. The feeling of the fear and the insecurity is intense when the faith is shaken. So therefore, we should be very sensitive, careful, although we are learning all these reasons, logics here. So when we interact with other people who believe in these concepts, say the Creator God and so forth, so how this concept came to be, it's not easy. It's mostly because of one, lack of intelligence. When the intelligence is like below 50%, then they easily go into blind faith, easily. And then in many cases, intelligence is there because of the family upbringing, family of these belief systems. And not only them, even the Buddhists, most of the Buddhists, how they become Buddhists is simply because they are born in the Buddhist family, right? Now, let us be a little different. Let us not be following the Buddha simply because we are born in a Buddhist family. So we learn these texts, and then make sure that we follow the Buddha's teachings, because that this is the path that takes us to the fearlessness and the infinite happiness. If this is not what is happening, then we should be ready to give up the Buddha's teachings also. His Holiness the Dalai Lama very clearly said that if the scientists can prove the non-existence of rebirth, he said that I will be the first person to follow this, I'll quit the concept of rebirth. This is the approach that is required. Let me say this again. If the scientists could prove the non-existence of the rebirth, I will also quit the concept of rebirth. This is an amazing approach. And the Buddha himself very clearly stated, just as goldsmith tests the purity of the gold by cutting, rubbing and burning the gold, you should also examine my words and put them to practice, not simply because you respect me. Amazing. So this should be approached. So with this in mind, let us start with a very clean slate and learn these debates. And just for information, I'd like to inform you that even these debates are not only between the Buddhists and the non-Buddhists. These debates were actually even amongst, I don't really see them in the classical Indian non-Buddhist traditions, but within the Christianity, these debates were rigorously happening. Within Christianity, thinkers were born in any tradition, in any family. Even in Christian families, the thinkers are born. So these thinkers, since childhood, they start asking questions, and then they become great, renowned theologians, and they start asking questions about God. This is a very serious debate going there. Particularly, I was so intrigued by just about a few months ago, there was a discussion on the free will, concept of free will. And then I was keen. So what was the kind of course, it started from long time ago in my case, when I was in my 20s, and this debate. And then later on, I was just, what is the view on the free will from the Western philosophy point of view? I was just checking that. And then it came all these materials, how the Christian theologians, they were debating on this, right? And whether or not God is the one who can freely create everything. Where is the free will? If this is what the God does, where is the free will? All these debates were going there within the Christian scholars. Okay, so that way, what I'm saying is that in fact, I personally, luckily, I don't know, I think it's my being very fortunate that since I was class 9, like age 16 to 17, my thinking is to be very rational. If it does not have any basis for us to believe in something, then it does not really make me happy. So this was my thinking since that age. Then later on, I met some neuroscientists. I don't want to specify which place, who, and so forth. Okay, give them that side. Neuroscientists, and for me, it's always so happy to meet with physicists, neuroscientists, and so forth, because they have a very open mind. But then one time I met a neuroscientist, and then the neuroscientist, we were having a discussion in my office. And his neuroscience talking about the mind, and then slowly moving towards a concept of some kind of cosmic consciousness, which is totally non-empirical. This is the word, non-empirical, which we cannot really experience. He just dragged me into this area. Then I said, you are a neuroscientist. How come that you believe in such a concept? And he became so angry because he cannot substantiate what he's saying. At the same time, he's taking himself as a neuroscientist. Oh, then I felt that, okay, neuroscientist doesn't mean that your intelligence is so good. So therefore, it is so important for us to learn the art, skill, build this habit within this lifetime to approach rationally, not to follow blindly. This is so important. So these reasonings that we're going to learn will help us. Yet at the same time, some people, they are again one extreme. They are too rational. The moment they don't see anything rational there, they will discard this saying, this is just stupid nonsense. This is also one extreme. For you, it may not make sense, it's fine, but respect others. Don't create problems on others. If others believe in it, they believe. Respect that. This is very important. Respect that until other person comes to ask you, you don't believe in this concept. What makes you think that you don't believe in it? Then you can give reasons. Unless the other person comes, such a very strong belief in a creator God, and sense of the cosmic self and the cosmic consciousness and so forth. And you go there, how do you know that there's such a God? How do you know that there's such a consciousness? If this is what happens, this is totally not advisable. Just respect others. But then we should learn how to go proceed towards. And finally, these approaches are just amazing. And these approaches, in a way, what is being studied here, as I said earlier, Acharya Dharmakirti's text, this will give you an extremely beautiful and strong container of the Dharma, container. And the content? Hey, content? I said something. Arjana's philosophy. The content? Arjana's philosophy. So all these reasonings given there, this will take us towards that. This will take us towards understanding Arjana's philosophy so well. And Arjana's philosophy of emptiness, of course, which was initially taught by the Buddha and explained very clearly by Arjuna. So when you get it, when you get that experience of emptiness, even a glimpse of that experience, then we'll see what is sensible, what is not sensible very clearly. You become so confident, right? But to reach there, we have to use these as the steps, to go there, steps. These reasonings will make us sharpen our mind, and then this sharpened mind will be used to go deeper into the philosophy of the Buddha Shakyamuni. Meaning, it's not the philosophy of Buddha Shakyamuni, the reality. The reality, whether the Buddha Shakyamuni appeared on this earth or not, the reality existed. Right? Even before the Buddha Shakyamuni existed, Buddha Shakyamuni came on this earth 2,500 years ago. The reality, the emptiness of objective existence existed since time immemorial. The Buddha Shakyamuni came just to discover it. He did not invent it. He did not invent this reality. He simply discovered this reality. So this reality existed way before the Buddha Shakyamuni appeared on this earth. But he was the one who discovered it for the first time on this planet, Earth. Okay. So this is the framework on the basis of which we have to start a clean slate. Okay. So why the transformed is said? The one who has transformed into the reliable guide. Meaning, this Prince Siddhartha, he, after 6 years of the practice in isolation, he then transformed into as a reliable guide. So there's a transition from the ordinary state to the enlightened state to become the reliable guide. Transition is there. So this process of transformation, why this transformation is said? Okay, reference 14. The purpose for mentioning having transformed. Transformed is stated. Where stated where? Stated where, Mon? In the True Lines of Supplication of Acharya Dharmakirti's text. Which text? Okay, what is that? Compendium of the Valid Cognition, Pramanavartika. Pramanavartika, right? Okay. So there, it is said in the word of salutation to the Buddha, it's said they're transformed. The one who has transformed into the reliable guide. Why this transformed state? This word is stated. 8b. Transform is stated to reject non-production, which means somebody to be a reliable guide. Reliable guide, it is not something which existed right from time immemorial, right from the beginningless time. No, even that person who's the reliable guide for us, reliable guide to take us to the ultimate heaven, even that person should be produced, should come into being through production, should be produced not as a reliable guide since beginningless time, no. He should be someone who was once ordinary person, eventually transformed and be produced as a reliable guide. So this transformation should be required. Okay, why is being said? To reject Non-production. Non-production meaning, okay, this is a reliable guide, this is very special category, exists from time immemorial. No, such a thing do not exist. Therefore, it is proper that the valid one meaning the valid one, valid cognition, the reliable one, reliable cognition, reliable guide, should be causally contingent. Contingent meaning dependent. Causally dependent, which means that even this reliable guide, there should be a cause which makes that person into a reliable guide. There should be a cause, preceding cause. If there should be preceding cause, at the time of the cause, the person was not a reliable guide. Once not a reliable guide, through following a particular set of causes and conditions, can transform into reliable guide. If this is the case, then we can also become one like that. We are also not yet reliable guide. Now we, through the cause and conditions which this Prince Siddhartha resorted to, we also resort to these cause conditions, we will also transform into the reliable guide. At that point, you achieve the state of fearlessness and infinite happiness. This is what I'm seeking. Okay, then you see there's hope there. There's hope there. Whereas if there is somebody who is said to be, who is believed to be reliable guide, right from the beginning, right? Okay, where do you feel more hopeful? For example, say, if there is say, two countries. Let's say, Thailand King, and the Malaysian Prime Minister, right? Malaysian Prime Minister and Thailand King, when they meet, they're on the same platform, right? One is higher, one is lower. No, same. Politically, the same platform. Okay, so if you are to really aspire to become leader, who you will see as your role model? The Thailand King or the Prime Minister of Malaysia? Why? Okay, I'm not ending up with, okay, Brother Peglo, you have to tell us. Singaporeans cannot say this. So what I'm saying is that if the two leaders meet, Thailand King or the British Queen and the Malaysian Prime Minister, if they meet on the same platform. It's not that one is higher, one is lower. No. Same platform. Both have the equal status. So, if we aspire to become a leader like them, then who you would take as say your role model? The Queen or the Thailand Prime Minister? Huh? Anyone else? Huh? Okay. Which means you are not too serious. Brother Peg, I know he's very serious. Who said neither is not serious. Just to look for alternatives. Okay, tell me.
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister, why?
Because he was not Prime Minister before.
He was not Prime Minister before. He was as ordinary as what we are now. Right? What we are now. And if I see that somebody who was like what I am now, who was ordinary before, as what I am now today is ordinary, then when I see that person eventually become the leader, then I also have the hope. Whereas if I see somebody, the Queen, born as a child, as a very day one old, treated as very special, I'm not treated as special, that's a very different category. So you don't feel the hope. Right? Finally, our job is, the hope will sustain you. The hope will drive you to achieve your goal. If you have no hope, if you say that I'm the hopeless person, you will never put effort to reach there. So the hope is the one that takes you to the desired goal. So the hope will come to us only when we see somebody who once was as ordinary as who we are now. So Prince Siddhartha, Buddha Shakyamuni, only he is enlightened, now the reliable guide, who has reached the state of the fearlessness and the infinite happiness, nirvana and Buddhahood. But if you track his biography, we see that he was ordinary prince, ordinary person once like us. and then he transformed. This word transformed has connotation of two things. The state of the transformation, transformed state, and the process of transformation, and the state before the transformation. 3 states. Do you see that? So with this, okay, there's a process. I'm also part of this process. I'm also not yet transformed. So from there, I'm going to go to the process of transformation, and then we'll be transformed fully. Okay, so this is hope that we find. Okay, so therefore it says, therefore it is proper that a valid one referring to the reliable guide, or the omniscient one, omniscient being, should be causally contingent, must come into being by dependence on the earlier causes. Never is the case that such omniscient thing existed without causally dependent. You getting it? In other words, what we are learning is that anything where anyone coming as an omniscient being should necessarily be causally dependent on the earlier causes. Dependent on the earlier causes means during the time of the cause, the person was not an omniscient one. The person was ordinary being like us. Okay, this is like the thesis. Reference number 15. Second, clarifications related to having accomplished the purpose has 2 parts. Number 1, rejecting the one who knows how to do all actions. That's the omniscient one. Okay, now, all these concepts come into being. So yesterday I was talking about I suggested the book, The Rise of Civilization. The Rise of Civilization. Okay, so the people, how they create these concepts. It is not for us to undermine the other systems. Simply how the people create the concepts, and then finally they try to make it very rigid, very fixed by saying that this is the something, the divine being's words and so forth. Nobody can touch it, nobody can alter it. Okay, so in fact this is very important. Once, that was I think like when I was in my monastery in South India. So what happened was that I was so fascinated by and then the fascination I had, I'm saying this, I'm sharing with you, the fascination that I experienced. If this is something some very creative people get, no doubt they will jump to the conclusion that there's a creative God. Why I'm saying this was that my childhood was in Dharamsala, so where we could not see the farming, just the school. Then from Dharamsala I moved to South India, where the farming was so prevalent seen around. And then how the farming was done, and how the farming and the weather, how these two work. How these two work in, complementarity. It's just amazing. I think it's like, say, the end of March, beginning of April, rain start to fall. It started to rain. So that's the time, start rain for about a week. That is to soften the earth. Oh, now the farmer, they're ready. Okay, now the rain started. Then after this 1 week, rain will stop. So farmers go into the land and then make the crusty, solid earth, which is already softened by the water, by the rain, crush. When everything is crushed, then they put the seed. And then once the seed is put, again the rain falls. And falls for about I think 2 weeks like this. So that is to germinate into shoot. And the rain stops for some time. So that is to plug the wheat, to remove the wheat. Remove the wheat, then the rain will shower for 2 or 3 months continuously. That is to grow continuously. And then when it's grown fully, rain stops. At that time, we have to harvest it. As though like somebody has dictated what should be done and the control of the rain. These two are so compatible. Wow, it's amazing. I was so fascinated. Either you have to accept karma or you have to accept God. Besides these two, there's no option. I was so fascinated. Amazing. And if you have no concept of karma, then the only choice is God. And then I'll write it in my book. I'll write the book, right? And then they say, although what I write is just so many errors, mistakes are there, but simple, less intelligent people are there, they'll follow me. And then they will take this book, right? That God has been so kind to create this. Look at this. And when you actually look at that, yes, that's true. What the book says, what is there, is true. Actually, I also wrote this book because I saw that. Not because that I got it from somewhere. But people think that I got it from somewhere. Right? And then see, this was amazing. This book said it was really this amazing. Right? Just recently, somebody following Buddhism showed me a map of one country. Which country I will not tell you. Map of one country. And so it's amazing. All these major temples, they are in line in this country, big country, this line. So I said, what's the problem then? What's the problem? No problem. It's amazing. Magic. What's the magic there? What's the magic there? Oh no, it's straight line. Right? Today we have the satellite to see the straight line, but in those days no satellite. Still there must be some the magical power, supernatural power, the people who build this to pass. Which means that today's science is much more powerful than the supernatural power. So today's science is really the God, Buddha, whatever you may call it. This is greater than this single line. Today they can do it much more meticulously, right? They say, look at what is that, Dubai? That island is amazing, human-made. That and that, those temples in line, even these temples, they are not with the same, like 2 feet, no. Some are 5 feet, some are 2 feet. The symmetry is not there. Whereas the Dubai thing is just amazing, human-made. So human are better than the saints. I said, there's nothing there. If you are fascinated by these small things, you will never see the ultimate reality. I told the person. If you are fascinated by this small thing, this magic light, there's no way, right? Objective existence, magic, no way. You will never see emptiness. If you don't see emptiness, you have to, whether you like it or not, you have to live in the world of the illusion. You have to live in the illusion of samsara. You will never wake up. If you don't wake up, the dream will continue to torture you. That is samsara. If you really want to get out of samsara, what's your point? In your life, day when you were born, I want to see all these temples in the symbols. Is this how you were born? Or I don't want suffering, I want happiness. Which way you were born? If you're born to be fascinated by these temples and symbols line, then you have done a job. Now don't eat anything. You have done a job. Right? You have accomplished a job. But this is not how you're born. You're born, I have so much of fear. I want to get rid of my fear. I want the maximum happiness. This is how we started our life. Until you reach that point, unless it has a relevance to this, they're all nothing. They're all just trivial. Right? If you're fascinated by these things, then the point about the emptiness, seeing everything like illusion, everything is dependent origination, will never come to a mind, will never strike a mind. Then, no way by which to escape from samsara. No way by which to be escaped from the fears of samsara. Okay. Page 7. First line. Establishing the one who knows the reality. Okay, no. I think page 6. The last reference, number 15. Second. Clarifications related to having accomplished the purpose has two parts. Rejecting the one who knows how to do all actions as the omniscient one. So, say, the believing in the concept, the way I said that, okay, somebody has dictated all these things. Somebody has dictated all these things. Knows everything so well. Okay, So if this is what you take as the omniscient one, this is something which is not true. This is not reality. How? Second point. Establishing the one who knows the reality of all phenomena as omniscient. Omniscient one means it's not about how to create things, but how to know the reality. Okay, there are two parts. One is rejecting the belief that somebody who knows how to create everything as the omniscient one, reject that. Okay, let me see this again. So, one common belief, the way I thought, that there is somebody who dictated all these things, who created all these things, the rain to shower at the right time and so forth. So that agent which came to our mind, that agent as the omniscient one, this is to be rejected. Rejected doesn't mean that it existed, but you have to discard it. No, it does not exist in the first place. So we have to know how it does not exist, number one. Number two, what really is omniscient one is somebody who knows the ultimate reality, ultimate truth, and the conventional truth thoroughly. That person is the omniscient one. Number two, establishing the one who knows the reality of all phenomena as the omniscient one. Two parts. Number one, reference 16. First, rejecting the one who knows how to do all actions as the omniscient one. Meaning, how to know how to do all actions, meaning how to create everything. How to create everything. Okay. Number one, rejecting the creator as the self-born, permanent, omniscient one. The creator, meaning, say, from the way I got the feeling that there is something there which creates all these things as the creator, as a self-born, permanent, omniscient. Omniscient one, but self-born, meaning that not causally dependent. Not causally dependent, self-born. Permanent meaning which lasted forever and which does not undergo any change. Number two, rejecting the reasons to support the creator as the omniscient one. Reference number 17. First, rejecting the creator as the self-born, permanent, omniscient one. Stanza 9. Valid cognition cannot be permanent. So, what they say is the omniscient one is the self-born permanent entity. Self-born permanent entity. And so for this, as I said earlier, I came across materials of the Christian theologians, and they were debating on this very seriously, how we can account for the concept of the creator God. And debate very serious debates. And then many of the serious debates which cannot be accounted for, say the Christian authorities, they subjugated these debates. Subjugated. And the people who are, even the priests who just come out and speak about these debates, they have been subjugated by the authorities, Christian authorities. So all these accounts were there. So it says that valid cognition, meaning that omniscient one is the best of the example of the valid cognition. Yes? Omniscient one, if the omniscient one exists, omniscient mind exists, that should be the best example of valid cognition. You agree with me? So it says, valid cognition cannot be permanent. Okay, let us learn these debates. Let us learn these, say, the exercises, reasonings and logics, as if they make sense. As it should be the valid one to cognize an existent thing, since the cognized is impermanent, it is not static. Okay, let's say this is the object. Omniscient mind means the mind which knows everything, which knows all objects. This is the meaning of the omniscient mind. So let's take one object as an example, and your mind is omniscient mind. Your mind is omniscient mind, and your mind knows this flower. And this flower changes. The object changes. The object is impermanent. This object, the flower, is impermanent. So, as the object is impermanent, first, okay, let's give an example that this flower, when it's fresh, it is white and very beautiful texture. If you keep it for like say 10 days, then slowly this beautiful color, white color, will slowly become little brownish and then will wither. If you keep say a crystal on this crystal will assume the color of crystal is the metaphor for this for a mind. Crystal will assume the color of this flower, white. As the object changes, color of the crystal also changes. Do you agree with me? Likewise, as the object is impermanent, the cognized mind is also impermanent. Cognized mind should also change. If the cognized mind does not change, the cognized mind should see the same object all the time. In which case, the object should remain static. If the cognized mind is permanent, it should never change. So what it sees should be seen all the time. So this flower, once it was very fresh, which has a tendency to droop after 10 days, if the cognized mind is looking, if the cognized mind, which is permanent, if it looks at it, then this, because that it is permanent, it should never change. This mind should not change. What it sees, this should be seeing it the same way all the time. So the object, if it sees the same object, the same for 20 days, the flower should remain 20 days the same way. Which means the flower should not change. But the reality is the object changes. So if the object changes, the subject also must change. Without subject changing, you cannot account for the object changing. So it says, valid cognition cannot be permanent, as it should be the valid one to cognize an existing thing. Which means that valid cognition means to cognize the phenomena, to cognize an existing phenomena like the flower. Since cognized, which is the object, since cognized the object is impermanent, the flower is impermanent, this it refers to the valid cognition. It cannot remain static. It is non-static. It cannot remain static because if the object changes, then the subject should also change. If the subject does not change, object should not change. Because if the subject does not change, then the subject should be seeing the same object the same way for the next 20 say the 10, 20, 100,000 years. In which case the object must be there, the same. But which is not the reality. So if from this logic what we learn is, if the object changes, the subject must change. So therefore, the omniscient mind also should change. We cannot have a permanent self-born, permanent omniscient mind. Stanza 10. Those produced sequentially cannot possibly be produced from a permanent thing. A permanent thing should not be contingent, as nothing can assist it. Okay, say the omniscient, the agent, and in fact the concept of the creator God, or the concept of the creator, even this is not fixed everywhere. Because in different places, in different times, different scholars, different thinkers came, and they came up with different thoughts. They are not all identical. Even the concept of God is not identical to all traditions. Right? So one of the traditions which I think we're going to learn from here in this text is that, okay, one is like a personal God, personal creator, where it dictates everything, it creates everything. Your mind, the house, the traffic, and everything. And it has so many contradictions. So many contradictions are there. So once, when was that? The tsunami happened in America? What is that? Many years ago. When I think I was in America. I was in, No, in America. There's one tsunami, hurricane Katrina, okay. So that time, so much of human casualties, disaster, so many deaths happened. And then the interviewer interviewed charity There are so many charity groups over there. One big charity group, Christian charity group was there, and the head, I think, was one of the missionaries. What do you call it? Evangelist? Huh? Okay. So the interviewer, the TV interviewer, he interviewed him and asked this question. The question was that why all this? Why this hurricane came into existence? Why it happened? And then, according to your belief, this is created by the God. And then, okay, so elders were killed. That's fine. They must have done something mischievous. Fine, right? It's a punishment. But so many babies, young infants die. They do not do anything bad. They do not do any sin in this life. So how come that they are punished by the God? So what answer is there? This question was asked by the TV presenter to the head of the charity, Christian charity. And that person seems to be theologian also. And he said that this is one of the areas where we cannot answer. No, he openly said it. He openly said it. Okay, so what I'm saying is that these thoughts come into being, and of course we should be respectful. Respectful meaning that we should not offend others, but deep inside we should know the reality. How these thoughts evolved gradually, right? Okay. Now with this the agent, which they believe to be the agent, known as the omniscient, it is seen in two ways here. One, it is seen to be omniscient, to know all phenomena. Number two, it is seen with the power to create everything. Two things. Stanza 9 is to reject that it is omniscient, the one who knows everything. That is rejected. Now, as a permanent entity, knowing all phenomena, that is rejected. Stanza 10 is rejecting such an agent to be creating everything. Right? One, knowledge. Number two, creation. So stanza 10 is with the creation. So how that is rejected? Things that come to existence. For example, you plant a seed. The farmers, they plant the seeds. Then the crops are grown. So we see that crops going, what happens? You plant the seed and then tomorrow the crops are seen, or how does that happen? You have no clue. You don't know that. You plant the seeds today, then the crops will come out when? After a few months. Which means that it's not overnight. Which means that it's sequential. It says those produced sequentially, right? Sequentially, not just overnight. Okay, somebody snaps and the crops come out. It's not like that. Things are happening sequentially. Okay, this is reality that we are seeing. Things are being produced sequentially. If this is reality, then the agent who created all this production, this agent does it. This agent, which has the full power, does it. If this is, what is that agent? Permanent entity, self-born, permanent entity. That is the one who created all these sequential phenomena. Sequential, say the operation of the cause-effect relationship. If this is what you say, then say that, okay, first you create the seed. Then you create the seed softening. Then you create the seed, the initial the sprout coming out. Then the bigger shoot, then the proper crop coming out. Okay, this is the sequence. With this being the sequence, say if you're a cause, if you're permanent, what you do, the first moment, what you do, the second moment should be same. If you're permanent, do you agree with me? If you're a permanent entity, what you do, the first moment, what you do, the second moment should be same. If not same, you're changing. You're impermanent then. If you're permanent, what you do in the first moment, and what you do in the second moment, what you do in the third moment, fourth moment, all should be same. If same, the first moment you create the seed. The second moment also you should create the seed. Not that the seed be softened, should not happen something different. But reality is something different is happening, sequence, meaning things are happening differently, therefore there's a sequence there. Right? Seeing that the reality, we see the sequence happening there, this sequence means change. Change happening there. And if the agent is permanent, the agent, let's say 5 moments of the agent, 5 moments of the object, 5 moments of object, there's a change happening. So the agent, 5 moments there, if the agent is permanent, all 5 moments should be permanent, should be same, should not be different. Which means what the agent moment 1 does, what the agent moment 2 does, should be the same. If it's different, it's still changing. Then it cannot be permanent, it is impermanent. If it's not changing, then what the agent moment 1 does, and 2, 3, 4 does, they should be the same. If that's the case, then the object-wise it should be the same. But the object we see, they're all different all the time. So the agent should be also changing. So therefore the agent cannot be permanent. If the object created by the agent is impermanent, then the agent should be also impermanent, changing. Those produced sequentially, meaning the object, cannot possibly be produced from a permanent thing, permanent agent. Permanent thing meaning permanent agent. Permanent things should not be contingent. Then if you say that, no. So the agent is the same, but the agent creates the seed, and the seed depends on the water. So the agent is to wait for the water. So the agent is not full authority there. It is also partial authorities with the water. So it's not the agent there. Right? Agent means full authority. Okay. Whereas if it depends on another factor, it is not independent. If it depends on the water for the seed to germinate, then this agent is not independent. Whereas those people who accept such agent believe the agent to be permanent, independent, and self-born. So it cannot be independent. It cannot be permanent. Permanent things should not be contingent. Contingent meaning dependent on other factors, like the water and so forth. But for the seed, water is indispensably required. So, agent should wait till the rain falls. Till he or she creates the rain, he cannot create the seed to germinate. Which means that he or she is dependent on the other factors. If dependent, it's not independent. If it's not independent, it cannot be that agent. That agent is taken as an independent entity. Okay. As nothing can assist it, meaning it referring to the agent. The agent is taken as independent entity. If it's independent, it should not depend on any other factors. If it does not depend on any other factors, nothing can assist it. As nothing can assist it, it refers to the agent. You getting it? Okay. So these reasonings we must learn. We must learn not for the sake of rejecting other philosophy, for the sake of sharpening our thinking. Okay. Reference 18. Rejecting the reason to support the Creator as the omniscient one has two parts. Pointing to the flaws of the reason, rejecting the Creator as the Creator of all. Okay. We should be very observant of the reality. We should be very observant of the world around us. It's very important. Why these concepts came to being, how they came to being. It's not just, they say, suddenly a very bright thinker comes and on the spot writes something. No. It evolved gradually. These are the treasures, cumulative treasures. Cumulative. So one person says something and then pass it down to his or her student. And then the second person will, the material is already ready there, given by the former teacher. Now your job is to look for the second material, and this slowly will build up. It builds up. Okay. So for me what happened was that another incident that happened to me is very interesting. Okay, so what I'm saying is that I'm sure that amongst you there are also people who are very observant. And whether you like it or not, we should be observant. Right? One time what happened was that, again when I was in the monastery, there was a scarcity of water. And we don't get the water from the government water reservoirs. We don't get that. So all the water somehow we should get from the borewell. And then it's a huge monastery, like 2,000, 3,000 monks are there. So the small groups, they have to dig their own borewell, create their own borewell. Then thought came to me. It's an amazing thought. Okay, we are so dependent on water. If the water is not there, the civilization cannot happen. And if you look at the old civilizations, we see that most of the civilizations, either they are along the riverside or along the coastal area. This is where you can get water. Okay. Then, water is very important. Without the water, we cannot survive. Then what I realized that, how do we get the water? So we getting water from the borewell. That's fine. So what is the natural process? Natural process is that this borewell, this water came from where? What's the source? Finally, we see that somewhere from the mountains, snow mountains. Okay, those people around the snow mountain, they're very lucky. They get water there. That's fine. They're very lucky. Then but the human species is growing in size, number. And they cannot all be just cluttered in one place. They have to look for other places. So, whosoever that agent is so kind. It's not just the snow. It made the snow melt. So that if it is snow all the time, snow will not move. So, but if it is changed to water, then the water moves down. It's amazing. Wow. Then the water moves down. Then you don't have to be cluttered around the snow. You can be down near the plains. And then the water, how long they can run on the plains, and they will not run all the way down. So then what about the people just at the end of the plain? How will they get water? Don't worry. Some water will go down. So this water will underneath. The people on the top, they can use the underneath water. So these are meant for the people down there. It's amazing. It's amazing. Wow. Okay, then what? Then the water will finish. Right? The snow will finish. Don't worry. So what is not used will all go into there's again the reservoir there, called as the ocean. They will all be collected there. It will not be wasted. It will go there. Then what happens? Ocean will not go there. Never mind, there's the sun there. Sun will shine on this, and the evaporation will take place. It's amazing. Then evaporation may shower on the ocean itself. No, don't worry. Wind will take there to the snow, to the mountain up there. Wind will somehow it will take there. Because of the gravitation or whatever, it will take there. It will go to the Mount Everest. Make sure that where the higher plane will go there. Wow, it's amazing. Amazing. Who is doing this? Who is doing this? There's no choice, whether logically agreeable or not, either karma or God. Right? It cannot happen accidentally. It's amazing design, grand design. This was amazing. I was so fascinated. So therefore, from that point onwards, although I studied all these things, that the God does not make sense and so forth, but seeing this reality myself, I don't openly speak about rejecting God. This amazing phenomenon, a grand design, amazing design by some agent. What is that? Either God or karma. Okay. Page 8, reference 19. First pointing to the flaws of the reason which cannot support the omniscience of the Creator. Okay. Look, all these positions, they were actually, somehow we get that these are created by the people, created by the thinkers. And then as more debates come, they modify their standpoint. This is what happens in many places, in many traditions. They modify the positions. This is what happens. So earlier they said that there is this the omniscient, who is permanent, independent, self-born, 3 characteristics. Then with these debates, they are rejected. Once rejected, they say, okay, it is not permanent, it is impermanent. Now they change their standpoint. It is impermanent. Still, impermanent doesn't mean that initially that is a state of flawed. Initially it was that it is ordinary state and then evolved into enlightened state. No. Even though it is impermanent, change all the time. Why? If you don't posit it as changing, it cannot create things. From what we learned earlier. If it is not changing, it cannot know phenomena changing. Right? So the position is to be modified by saying that yes, it is changing. Just the object is changing, objects are produced sequentially. Even the agent which creates this, agent which knows all these things, even the agent is also changing. But changing means not necessarily from bad to good. It's from good to good, good to good, good to good. Change, there are so many kinds, right? Change doesn't necessarily means bad to good or good to bad. It can be from good to good, good to good, good to good, perfect to perfect, perfect to perfect, perfect. So therefore, since primordially it was an omniscient agent, although impermanent, is omniscient. So the standpoint was a little modified, but still maintaining that it is not transformed. But here Acharya Dharmakirti said that the one who has transformed. So they say that no, if a transformed means ordinary person can never become perfect. This is what many of the systems believe. Ordinary person, human being cannot be depicted as a god. So therefore, the discussions about Jesus Christ, whether he is God or not, right? The Jews say that no, he cannot be God because he is a human being. Human being means already confined to a fixed body, fixed mind. God is pervasive. It cannot be expressed in the physicality or the mind. It is the pervasive. So therefore, the moment it is limited, it cannot be God. So all these discussions were happening. So with this, now they change their standpoint. Yes, this agent is impermanent, but what? But it existed as perfection from the beginningless time. It was never imperfect at one point in the past. 11. Despite being impermanent, no valid cognition. Now Acharya Dharmakirti is saying that even if you say that it is impermanent, still you don't have a valid cognition existing to prove it to be omniscient. Such an agent, although you say that it is impermanent to defend your position, but you don't have a valid reason to say that such an agent, which is impermanent, yet impermanent from time the immemorial, and be the creator of the whole universe and the knower of all phenomena exists. You don't have a valid reason. What reason do you have? Right? Okay. One time, His Holiness the Dalai Lama somehow casually asked me that we need to work on a book on, for example, like psychology, which encompasses the psychology of all the different traditions, not only Buddhism, even the Christians, Hindus, Muslims. So for that matter, one time I went to Varanasi to know about the psychology, about the concept of the Atma, the consciousness, the way the classical Indian traditions like the Nyaya, Mimamsaka, Vaisheshik, then the Vedanta, these traditions, they believe Jainism, they believe. I went to Varanasi just for that purpose, and not at all for the purpose to debate, no need, right? It is one's own business. But for me to know, what is their standpoint? How do they pass it? So luckily I met a scholar and a practitioner of the Vedanta tradition in Varanasi. Then through some common friend, we were introduced to each other, and then I requested him, please, teach me about the concept of this consciousness, which is believed to be permanent by his tradition. Then he was trying to explain something, and he is already a great scholar. He knows about many traditions. So he said that, okay, it is a permanent entity, and if you really want to experience it, so there are steps. You have to first follow Guru. Right? You should have a complete faith in him or her. And then on that basis you will experience it. Then I told him that, okay, let's say I'm somebody who does not believe in anything. Let's say I'm somebody who does not believe in anything. And say I meet somebody who said that there's a consciousness which is permanent in nature, right? Which is permanent in nature, which exists at all times and permanent in nature. And then another scholar or another the person saying that such a mind conscious does not exist. And I'm very open to learn, right? To see, but I'm ready to learn only what makes sense. So, if I come to you, me as somebody who is very open-minded, clean slate, how will you convince me of what you think is the reality, that such a consciousness exists? How will you convince me? He said that, he's very direct, he said that there's no way by which somebody can be logically convinced. Then which means that I have to believe in it. Blind faith. I have to believe in it. This is the only way. He said, then you have to meet with the Guru. You should have perfect faith in him. And then follow, and then you'll realize this. So, I have no way by which to get conviction in this. Right? And then he realized what I'm looking for. He's very smart, he's very intelligent. And professor, of course. Then he said that if you really want to know more about the consciousness, the best source is Buddhist psychology, he said. This is the best source about the mind that you are eager to learn. For that, study Buddhist philosophy. This is the way you get the whole treasure about the mind, empirical mind, he said. Directly he said it. Okay, so the point is that we have to learn all these things. Okay, now this is interesting. Stanza 11. Despite being impermanent, no valid cognition exists to prove it to be omniscient. Meaning that, Acharya Dharmakirti is saying that if you now change your standpoint, saying that such an agent which is omniscient and the creator of all phenomena, yet it is not permanent, it is impermanent. Because of the 2 points raised by Acharya Dharmakirti. If you change your standpoint, yet it is something which existed as perfect since time immemorial, since time began this time. If this is what you're saying, there's no reason, there's no logic to prove that. There's no reasoning to prove that. So, it says, no valid cognition exists to prove it to be omniscient. This is Acharya Dharmakirti's debate. Then, the reasoning such as it acts intermittently, a unique shape, functioning, and so forth, are invalid. So, what reason do they produce? They say that, okay, this is the reason that they give. Very interesting. What they say is that the habitat, the inhabitants, meaning the world and the beings in the world, the habitat, the world, and the inhabitants, the beings in the world, as the, okay, first, this is very important. First, we have to know how to construct reasoning, a sound reason. Meaning, for reasoning, what are the criteria required? Reasoning. Okay, some of you from say from the studies that you did, from the various programs. Some of you might have all that, the basic knowledge, and there may be some of you doing another master's course and another diploma course. You have some idea of that. Okay, so to say that I produce a logic or I produce the reasoning, that reasoning should have 4 components. The reasoning should have 4 components. It's easy, it's not complicated. It's easy. 4 components. One is the topic. The topic. Number 2 is the predicate. 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 P-R-E-D-I-C-A-T. Predicate. Number 3 is the sign or reason. Sign or reason. Number 4 is example. 4 things are required. Example. Number 1 is topic. Number 2 is predicate. Number 3 is reason or sign. Number 4 is example. Illustration. Illustration. Number 4 is illustration. Okay, 4 things are required. So let's say, if I want to prove that this flower is impermanent, so I have to use the reason. Whether you use reason in a very explicit, well-designed reason, or intuitively a reason works. Anything can happen. But no matter what, as long as reason is happening, these 4 components are intact there. The first one is, let's say, the flower. The flower is the topic, not the predicate. This flower is impermanent. Impermanent. This flower is impermanent. This is what I like to prove. This flower that I'm holding in my hand is impermanent. This is what I like to prove. This flower is impermanent. So the flower becomes the topic, and the impermanent becomes the predicate. The topic and the predicate combined together becomes the thesis. Thesis is what I like to prove, or what I like to know. The flower as the topic and the impermanent as a predicate combined together. What is that combination? The flower is impermanent. This is what I like to know, or I like to tell somebody. I would like to convince somebody of. Okay, how it is impermanent? Why it is impermanent? Because, then I give the reason. Because it is produced. Because it is produced, I give a reason. Then example, like the last moment of the flame, like the last moment of the burning flame. Last moment of the burning flame, what is the experience like? Last moment of the burning flame. What's the next moment of the burning, the last moment? Yes. Okay, if there's a burning flame there and it's pitch dark, and the burning flame there in the middle of this pitch dark, and suddenly the last moment, the next moment, it becomes complete dark once more. So you can see this, the prominent impermanence. Initially at first it was bright, and suddenly it becomes dark. Impermanence is seen, right? So this is a very prominent example of impermanence. Okay, put it again. This flower is impermanent because it is produced like the last moment of the burning flame. So do you see the 4 components there? Do you see the 4 components? Very good. Okay, now the advocates of this agent, advocates of the creator concept, the creator concept, so they have also provided reason with the 4 components. So what they say is that instead of the flower for them, they said everything that exists in this universe, everything that exists in this universe as the topic. As the topic, they are preceded by a determining mind. They are preceded by the determining mind. What is that? I'll explain. They are preceded by the determining mind. What's the next? Sign or the reason. So the reason and sign is given here in line 3 of stanza 11. The reason such as it acts intermittently. 1, it has a unique shape. Number 3, it functions. the reasons. And then they give examples. For example, okay, what do you think? If you go to Mars, and suddenly in the middle of the Mars, planet Mars, you see this smoke. Why are you laughing? How is possible? Okay, let's say, in the Mars, right, you are the first person on the Mars. That's why there's no person, right? No person, only the what? Flying objects were sent there, not the person. So if you are the first person there, suddenly you see him up there, like this, with the label ENGO, and what else? Yeah, all these handled beautifully done. What will you say? Oh, God has created this. Or what will you say? Somebody must have landed before me. Right? Somebody must have landed before me. Right? Or there must be some alien, the aliens who are much more sophisticated than us, but the mug is much more the same as ours. Right? Okay. You will just, some creative agent has created something with ENDO. No, you will say that somebody who made this, who gave a thought, this. What did I say? All phenomena in this world, all the habitat and the inhabitants of the universe as the topic. And then what did it say? The predicate, what did it say? Huh? They are preceded by the determining mind. So, who determined this mark? Who determined this mark? Who determined this mark, right? Who determined this mark? This person who had earlier, before he or she actually made this mark, had a plan in his own mind. So that mind determined this mark. You agree with me? By the way, if you come, okay, I'm very serious. If you end up in Mars as the first person, suddenly if you see this mark, what do you think? Oh, God created this? Or somebody came already on the earth, I'm not the first person. What do you think, tell me? Somebody came, right? This is how the detectives work. Right? They look for the traces, and this is not the trace of the animals, this is a trace of the human being. Somebody was there before. The DNA, DNA, all these things they check. From this, they determine that there was the human being already before that. Okay. So, they say that the habitat and the inhabitants of the universe. As the topic, they must be preceded by the determining mind, meaning that a mind, the agent's mind, a creator's mind, which determined all these habitat and the inhabitants. This mind preceded these objects, which means that they were already planned by some agent's mind. Because these objects, we see that they act intermittently. For example, the rain. The rain, it happens usually on the monsoon, right? It rains and it stops. And then let the spring, the spring comes first spring comes later. Okay, see, with the spring what happens? With the spring the dust rises and the rain showers, all the dust has settled down. It's amazing, right? And then in the autumn, no rain. Winter, some rain. And then wait till next time. So intermittently, it's not always raining. Raining one time and then stops. Then again another time it rains and it stops. Intermittently means it happens occasionally, not all the time. Happens, gap, this is intermittent. Which means that somebody is dictating this. A determining mind dictates this. A determining mind means the mind of the Creator God. Mind of the Creator determines this. Okay. Next, a unique shape. Look at the peacock's feather. Who painted the beautiful feather? Nobody painted it. It's a beautiful design. It's a unique shape. It's a unique color. Again, there must be Asian there. Then, functioning. Things are functioning. The seeds, they grow. Right? The seeds, they grow. Likewise, the rain function to germinate the seed. and the soil functions to give nutrients to the seed. So we see that things are functioning, which means who made them function? There must be somebody who had this grand design. Okay. The reasons such as it acts, these things act intermittently. 1, these things have unique shape. 2, these things function. These reasons, so forth, are invalid. They are not valid reasons. How not valid reasons will be given below. Either it establishes the accepted, number 1 flaw. Why these are not valid is for 3 points. 1, either these reasons are established, it establishes the accepted. Number 1. I'll explain what it is. Number 2, there's no example to prove that, because we need example. For a good reason, we should example. There's no reason, there's no example there, number 2. Number 3, or it leaves a doubt. With these 3 challenges, the reason given by the advocates of such an agent is invalid. Okay, first, let's say that let's say, so habitat and the inhabitants as the object, as the topic, they are preceded by the determining mind, meaning the agent's mind. Agent's mind determines all these things. Okay, when you say that, these are preceded by the determining mind. What do you mean by determining mind? This is a question Acharya Dharmakirti asks. What do you mean by determining mind? If the determining mind says that by seeing this mark in the planet Earth, planet Mars, if you see this mark, then you see that, okay, a mind has already determined this, that mind preceded this, right? In which case, if this is what any mind, not necessarily agent, that special agent's mind, but any mind, if you say this is nothing new for us. There's nothing new. We accept that even this design, even they say the beautiful flower, color combination of the flower, and the peacock's feathers, all these things, they are preceded by the determining mind of their karma. Their karma, which we also accept. So, which means either it establishes the accepted. You are trying to establish something which we already accept. We accept that all these people are different. People are different, some are boys, some are girls, and some have, even say whatever, the differences, they're all because of the previous karmas. This is something we already accept. You don't have to prove that. If you want to prove that some mind preceded, some mind which determines these objects preceded these objects, meaning that some minds are responsible to create these objects. If it is not the specific mind, the creator's mind, but any mind, human mind, then this is what we accept. We say that whole world is created by the karma. We accept it. There's nothing new there. So it does not prove the agent's mind, number 1. Number 2, or the example. Example is what? What did you say? Hey, read the text. What does it say in the text? Example is not established. So if you say that, no, I don't want to prove that there is any mind which preceded this object. No, this is not what I want to prove the special mind of the agent, mind of the creator agent. If you say this, you have to give me an example. Example which I am convinced about. Something which is created by the creator agent's mind, and that object is actually created by this. You have to give me an example. You don't find any example, right? You cannot give an example if you want to prove that these objects are created by the determining mind of the creator agent. You cannot give an example to prove that. Number 2. What is number 3? It leaves a doubt. It leaves a doubt, meaning that if you say that something which works intermittently, something which functions should necessarily be preceded by a determinate mind, then the Creator himself is a problem. Creator, what determinate mind preceded the Creator? Because the Creator also functions. Right? So with this, you will be left with the doubt that, okay, with the Creator, if I say what determining mind preceded the Creator agent? Because that Creator also functions to create things. Simply because if something functions, if that is preceded by determining mind of the Creator agent, then the Creator himself or herself, because that he or she functions, what determinate mind preceded that Creator? Who created this Creator? This question. Right? So this will leave a doubt in your mind. So with these 3 points, you will never find a sound reason to prove that such an agent exists. Okay. 12. Opponent. Determined by the presence of blessings, anything like a shape is created. Okay. Now, up to this point, stanza 11 is more like the summary. Stanza 12 down is a little more detail. Stanza 12. Determined by the presence of blessings. Blessings here means influence. Influence. Blessings means, so basically the blessing is the connotation of what transmutes or what brings change. For example, say I'm an ordinary person and then somebody blesses me, right? Blesses me, then I become more kind. Somebody who's unkind is changed into being kind because of the blessings of one's guru. Okay, let's say. So blessing is a connotation of change. Change. Okay, so this is the meaning. So change meaning, change is through the influence of the cause. So here the blessing is in the form of the influence. So the opponents, what this is, determined by the presence of the blessings, presence of the influence, anything like shape is created. So say you see anything like shape and so forth, we see that, okay, it is by the influence of a thought. You agree with me? Right? Say if you see a very beautiful building, oh, the architect must be bright, very intelligent. If you see a very expensive but just the structure is terribly bad, right? No utility, no functional utility, and then design is so big, ugly, unpleasant, then you will say that the architect is just terrible. Right? From the object we can see the thought process of the person who designed this. So the opponents, what they are saying, let's look at this object. From there we can see that a mind has preceded. Influence of the mind has preceded. Likewise, everything else, it has its own shape, color. They are not identical. They have own respective shape, color, form, and so forth. So there must be a designer earlier. That mind is the creator agent's mind. This is what they say. Okay, this is what we said already. This is now the more detailed explanation. Then the next Acharya DK. Acharya DK is Acharya Dharmakirti. His position to make for us to understand more easily. Anyway, I got this idea from HYT. From Singapore. Yeah. Okay. So it is to make the readers understand more easily. Acharya Dharmakirti says, what is inferred through that is valid for the creation by the efforts of beings. Let's say, if you see a special shape like this building, we can say that, okay, if this is, how can it possibly arise on its own? There must be somebody who designed it. Yes, from this we can say this human mind has preceded this. Not the creator God. It's the human mind has preceded this. From this we can infer the influence, the blessings or the influence of the human mind with this building, not another agent. Okay, now 13 13. That varied things are produced from varied causes, if inferred through similar label with generic contents such as shape, which are not distinguishable, is not valid. Okay, so stanza 12, the shape. Okay, look at this shape. From this shape, we can see that, would you say, if suddenly you end up in Chen Shui Temple, you are expecting this to be a very, say, the forest, a complete forest, no building. Suddenly you end up here and you see the building. From this, you get a feeling that, okay, somebody has designed this building. Architects, engineers, they preceded. Would you get the impression? Good. Okay, so because this is a unique shape, it has, from the shape, you can see the effort of somebody. Whereas if you see the Mount Everest, okay, who created this? Somebody must have designed this. You will not feel that, it's naturally occurred. With this building, no, it's not natural. Somebody came here before. You can infer that. So, with a special shape, and number 11, the 12 is the special shape, and number 13 is this shape in general. Reason given, number 12 is special shape. From this we can infer the effort, not of the agent, but the effort of the human being. Now number 13 is, no, we are not going to talk about this special shape, we are going to talk about the shape, just a shape, right? Okay, look at this Chen Shui Temple. So this is preceded by the determining mind of the agent, because this is a shape, right? If you say this, look at let's say Mount Everest. Okay, this gigantic the mountain, that is preceded by a determining mind of the agent, because it has a shape. Its shape, that shape is different from the shape of the Karakoram mountain. Is different. So this shape, for example, the shape of Chen Shui Temple. Shape of Chen Shui Temple, you can say that a mind preceded. Mind preceded. This, they give this example. Then Acharya Dharmakirti says what? 13. The very things are produced from varied causes, if inferred through the similar label with generic contents such as shape. Generic content meaning shape, this shape, word, this shape, does it refer to the mug? Mug is a shape? Yes. So this shape, the label shape, is applicable to the mug? Applicable to the flower? Yes, no? Your body? Yes, no? Applicable to all shapes. So generally, this label is generally applicable to all shapes. Generic meaning the label which is applicable to all shapes. Or the shape per se. The shape is generally applicable to any form of shapes. Okay. Generic content such as shape. Shape which can go with the Mount Everest. Shape of Chen Shui Temple. Which are not distinguishable. Meaning that Chen Shui Temple is a shape. Mount Everest is a shape. With respect to the shape, these two are the same. These two are not of the same shape, but these two are both the shape. Simply because these two are both the shape, so just as these two are shape. And Chen Shui Temple, you look at it, this is a shape, and it is preceded by a determining mind, right, of the architect, of the engineers. So likewise, Mount Everest is also a shape, so the determining mind must have preceded that. This is what the opponents are trying to say. Did you follow this? Okay, first tell me, how the opponents try to convince this. Point number 13. General shape, not the specific shape. General shape, how? Chen Shui Temple is a shape. Mount Everest is also a shape. So when you look at the Chen Shui Temple, from this you can infer that it is preceded by a mind of the architects, engineers, so forth. Likewise, Mount Everest is also a shape, so therefore it should be also preceded by a determining mind, right? What is that mind? not the architects, the engineers, it's the designer, the God's mind. This is how the opponents say. Okay, let me say this. The very things are produced from varied causes. Meaning that, look at all these things. Look at all these things. They're all produced by the causes. Causes, they're different in the shapes, colors, so forth. From this, if you infer through similar label with generic content such as shape, say similar label the shape. Shape, for example. Shape. Okay, Chen Shui Temple is a shape. Mount Everest is a shape. The flower is a shape. So just seeing that the shape is something which exists in all forms of shape, from this reason, then you try to infer the existence of the preceding mind, the mind of the creator. If you do that, as shape which are not distinguishable, meaning the flower is the shape, flower is the shape is the characteristic. Chen Shui Temple is the shape. Chen Shui Temple is the characterized and the shape is the characteristic. Mount Everest is shape. Mount Everest is characterized and the shape is the characteristic. So in all three cases, the characteristic remain the same. Shape, shape, shape. You're getting it? So this characteristic is not distinguishable. It's just the same for all three. Shape, shape, shape. What shape? Then they may differ. But the shape per se remains the same for all. This is something which is non-distinguishable to all the forms of the shape. So it says, which are not distinguishable, meaning the shape, the flower is a shape. Mount Everest is a shape. Atom is a shape. So the shape is something which pervades all these forms of the shapes. So because these are all the same, and one is preceded by one shape is preceded by the preceding mind, which determines that. So everything else is preceded by a determined mind, which is none other than the Creator God's mind. Okay. And this reason, saying that they are equally being shaped, so therefore they are all preceded by the determining mind, determined mind. This reason that you are putting is not a valid reason. It's not valid. It is like inferring fire through grey substance. Okay. In the daytime, from distance you don't see the fire. From distance you don't see the fire. You see the smoke. And smoke color generally it is grey. Right? So okay, from the grey smoke you infer fire. And the elephant color is grey. Okay, so this actually Acharya Dharmakirti is amazing. Acharya Dharmakirti is actually advising us, this is how you follow. Right? Okay, I told you last time. Oh, this Tibetan doctor is amazing. Wow, which means that Tibetan medicine is very good. Okay, that's fine. Oh, we also have a Tibetan doctor who is a horrible Tibetan doctor. Right? Now, because the first one is so good and he's a Tibetan doctor, this also Tibetan doctor, he also must be very good. Right? He also must be very good. Okay, this is how we try to rationalize, which is a hopeless rationalize, the word hopeless rationality. Hopeless rationality. Okay, so this is what Acharya Dharmakirti is saying. Okay, you see the grey smoke. Okay, there must be. I say that there must be smoke there. Then you say, okay, I see there's smoke there, and then you may not say anything in your mind because it's grey. Then you say elephant moving, grey elephant moving. Okay, there must be fire there because there's a grey moving, right? From the grey smoke, you infer the fire. From now, okay, because this grey is not only with the smoke, it's also with the elephant. So there must be fire there also. This is a horrible logic, right? This is what the opponents, they're trying to use the logic. Okay, this shape of the shape, Chen Shui is a shape. And Chen Shui precedes the determining mind. So the Mount Everest also is a shape. So also must proceed with the determined mind. If this you say, then the grey smoke is grey. So from there we can infer the fire. Grey elephant is also grey. You can also infer the fire there. Okay, this horrible logic. It is like inferring fire through grey substance such as the grey elephant and so forth. 14. Otherwise absurdity befalls to accept that the potter, who is the maker of pots and so forth, which are forms of clay, should also be the maker of the anthills. So the potter, he makes different shapes of the pots. What did he use? He used the clay. Okay, I see that the last time I saw that there's the anthill, which is also made of clay. So the potter must have created this, because the potter creates the pots, which are also made of clay. So he must have made the other things which are the materials are the clay. So this is not a sound logic. Okay. 15. The result. Okay, 15 is a little complicated. We need a little rest here.